Shabbat Shalom, and we welcome everybody to our services. And we're just going to wait a second for everyone to come on board. And as you can see, you've joined Hollywood Temple Bethel. And going to start bringing our friends on board in just 1 second. And so, Jeff, hi.
Shabbat Shalom,
Good Shabbos. How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, we're coming on board, and gradually a few more are going to come on board. Our theme for this Shabbat, we're going back for this Shabbat and next Shabbat to just regular Torah learning. And then we'll continue in November. We have Sephardic Jewish music, the specialist Judith Cohen coming on board. And afterwards, Arthur Ben-Venissi coming back to talk about hidden Jews, secret Jews. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. I'm going to share you share this with you, Jeff. And later I'll mention it to everybody also, but I guess while people are coming on board, they can watch this story. Last week we had our guests from Poland join online with us. So they're coming from Warsaw, and out of curiosity, I had some pictures of my mother in a few settings in Warsaw during the Holocaust, where she's outside. She's on the open, and in plain disguise on the outside. And she's posing for some friends for some photographs near a water fountain, and then she's posing in a park, some buildings. And very fuzzy pictures. They were on postcards that were maybe not in postcard size. No, they were thumbnail size pictures. They were like about passport size pictures, really tiny. And I was able to scan them, and so you can see the background. It was sort of fuzzy. So I sent some of the pictures to one of the participants there, Marek, who's the older gentleman. And sure enough, a few days later says, I know some people who are specialists on Warsaw history and attractions, and boom, this is the site, the exact site. Here's where your mother was standing on the map. Here's the building now. It's a very famous building. Here's the water fountain. It's a very famous water fountain. She was posing.
Okay. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And it brings the past alive.
Oh, yeah, it's fascinating. And it's such a good job of detective work. He looked at it and he was able to figure out from the background, says, it's winter time because we can see there's not much grass on the ground. She's wearing a coat, so the winter is over. Snows aren't there. So I know approximately the time. And
what year was that?
44. One picture says 43, one says 44. So, Murray,
things were tough back then. That's really rough.
Right in the peak. In fact, he identified one spot as just being 2 blocks from the ghetto. Warsaw Ghetto. Murray, hello, Shabbat Shalom. How are you? Welcome to you,
Hello.
Murray. How are you doing?
How are you?
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, people are starting to join on. Good. Murray, where are you from? You've been joining us lately. You're here in LA?
I live around Congo, Beth Israel. I'm 2 blocks from there.
Ah, okay. Which Beth Israel is that? The Beth?
Crescent Heights in Beverly.
Oh, okay. It used to be Rabbi the Cantor. The Cantor was very well known.
Cantor and the rabbi passed away.
He was much older, yeah. And the Cantor's son was also a Cantor for a while.
He still is a Cantor.
Still acting as a Cantor. Yeah, he did some services in our building with another rabbi. We'd given them space one time. Now let's see who else is coming on board there. That is 5080 is
Shabbat Shalom,
Karen.
Rabbi Weinberg, and everybody else. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm almost memorizing your numbers. That's right. 58 is Karen. Then Joe Ben Lulu's coming on. I see Marcelo's on board now also. All right, so gradually our minion is building up. So let's do this. I'm going to get started with musical interlude to warm us up. And this is from the opening of the service. One of the opening prayers, Elohai Neshama. I don't have the text of the prayer book for this, but it is part of the preliminary blessings in which we give thanks just for waking up and for having a clean soul. No matter what we have done, that soul is divine and returns to God as divine. There is no contamination of the soul through Adam's sin in Jewish thought.
אלוקיי נשמה שנתת בי, אוי 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 טהורה היא, אוי אוי אתה בראת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי. אלוקיי נשמה נתת בי, אוי 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 טהורה היא, אוי אוי אתה בראת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי. אוי אוי ואתה נשמה בקרבי, אוי ואתה נתלה ממני, ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני, ולהחזירה בי לעתיד לבוא. אוי אוי ואתה נשמה בקרבי, אוי ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני, ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני, ולהחזירה בי לעתיד לבוא. אוי 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 נשמה, אוי אוי נשמה, אוי אוי טהורה היא, אוי 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 נשמה, אוי אוי נשמה, אוי אוי טהורה היא. אלוקיי נשמה שנתת בי, אוי 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 טהורה היא, אוי אוי אתה בראת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי. אלוקיי נשמה שנתת בי, אוי 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 טהורה היא, אוי אוי אתה בראת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי, ואתה נשמה בקרבי, ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני, ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני, ולהחזירה בי לעתיד לבוא. אוי ואתה נשמה בקרבי, אוי ואתה עתיד neshama, oy oy neshama, oy oy teorahi, oy 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 neshama, oy oy neshama, oy oy teorahi.
Okay, I see. Joe Alexander's joined us. I think Judy Alkali and Barbara Mormon, if I'm recognizing the
Yes.
numbers.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. Good morning. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome.
Shabbat
Joe.
Shalom.
Yeah, also, Joe Alexander, you were on a program this week, I understand, with some celebrities. You're our celebrity. Right, very good, very good. Okay, so Elohai Neshama Rahi, our soul is pure. In other words, we do not have this idea which came into, and I don't even think it was original with Christianity in the very first years, but maybe Paul and it's the outside influences came into it, to say that our initial soul is impure because of Adam's fall. And we take the position, and we'll discuss this with Noah, we'll see with Noah, that yeah, we got problems, but essentially the core of us is pure. What we want to do is keep it pure. That is the challenge for each one of us, not to defile it. So that is our thought, one of the thoughts that distinguishes us from Christianity, right? We have a difference. All right, let's begin our service then with Shochen Ad. Okay. And I am operating not from home, I'm away with our kids. So I'm using my laptop. I don't know if the screen looks the same for you, or if you're able to see it clearly, just let me know. And if you don't hear things going on, let me know. I don't have my professional microphone on to see them using earbuds. I just want to be sure that you hear clearly. We'll go ahead together. Shochen ad marom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv ranu tzadikim baranai la yisharim nava tehila v'fi yisharim teithalal uv'divrei tzadikim tibarach uv'ilshon chasidim titramam uv'keref kedoshim tihitkahadash ובמקלות ובבות עמך בית ישראל. And we're going to continue with praise of God that leads us into the Baruch Hu in the bottom of the next page. As you see it there. Yishtabach shimcha la'ad malkeinu el hamel hagol v'kadosh b'shem ha'varetz imlecha adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu shishvach aleh b'zimra. That's a good. And on the bottom, Berachot ve'odot me'ata v'yad olam Baruch atah Adonai melech gadol batishbachot el odot Adonai niflot aboche b'shirei zimra melech elchei holamim. The God of wonders, the God of praise, who chooses and delights in the songs of praise. God eternal, life of the universe, or eternal life. Susan is joining us. Okay. Okay. Somebody, if you're following along on Facebook and there's that 20-second delay, you should cut the microphones. Okay. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, Susan. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. And we're going to go ahead, Baruch Hu. I'm going to consider we got 9 on Zoom, and I'm going to assume we have others outside. So we're going to go with the Baruch Hu, open our service formally, call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach, Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed, Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed, Baruch atan mechalam. Okay, we give praise to God as the source of light and beauty in the universe, as well as also darkness and all that is not good, because we want to, as Jews, take it as one source of everything in the universe, and we take our lumps with our blessings, we have to accept the darkness in order to appreciate the light. We continue now. Eladon with Charlie Bach. Next page down. Join in with him. Right, we can bring back the spirit of Rabbi Karl Bach. One of the wonders of having access to so much material online is we can bring the dead, rest in peace, back to us to listen to them. All right. Saul wanted to speak to Samuel. He had to go to the witch of Endor. We just push a button and we get to see creative people. Okay, Doug Yoni, Shabbat Shalom, welcome aboard. Okay,
Shabbat Shalom.
Crowd is growing. Are you? I want to make sure everybody, everything sounds clear because I'm in a different location. I want to make sure the recording speed looks fine. You hear everything fine. That's very important.
Sounds good to us.
Good. Thank you.
Gabe, can you hear me, Rabbi?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah, I hear you both.
Good.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so we're going to continue with the vision of the angels, giving the praise, Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, and then the wild Srafim, the fiery beings, saying, Baruch Kavod Elohim Komo, blessed be God in his habitation. V'chulam mikablim aleihem, ol malchut shemayim zeh mizeh, להקדיש ליוצרם, ונחת רוח בסוף ונאמר, קדושה כולם כיכרם ביראה, קדוש, קדוש,
קדוש, קדוש,
אדוני
צבאות, מלך הארץ, כבודו.
ואופנים וחיות הקודש, ורעש כרם מתנסים לעומת צרפים, ברוך כבוד אדוני,
ממקומות.
God, blessed in beautiful praise, God of all that exists, we shall sing praise. Song. That is the theme of the prayer that wraps up this section, which is the light, the blessings of the lights. We started with the blessing of light and darkness. We end with a call for new light, or Chadash Hatzion Ta'ir.
Baruch atah Adonai yotzer hamorot.
We give thanks to God for the creating of the lights, and we want a light on the world and on Zion in particular, in a perfect era for humanity. That's the light we look for. Now, we continue with Ahava Rabbah, giving thanks for the love God has expressed to us as we feel it in having the wisdom of the Torah, which will take us into the Shema and the obligation to love God in return. If we have gained wisdom, we give back to the source of wisdom. Let's all join in Ahava Rabbah together. Ahava Rabbah ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu Chemla gedola v'teira Chamalta aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Ma'avur avoteinu Shebatchu V'cha Avinu Malkeinu V'telamdem chukechayim Kein Klechaneinu Tlamdeinu Avinu Ha'av Harachaman Amrachem Rachem Aleinu V'tem B'libeinu Lehavin Lehaskil Lishmoa Lilmod Lilamed Lishmoa V'lasot Ulekayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha b'Yahava V'ha'erinenu b'Toratecha V'dahabe kiveinu b'mitzvotecha V'yached levaveinu Li'ahava u'li'ra et shemecha V'lo nevosh Le'olam va'ed V'lo nevosh Le'olam va'ed Ki v'shem Ka'ashecha Agadol Rabadachlu Nagila v'nismecha and together. V'havienu l'shalom Yaba kanfot haaretz V'tolicheinu komemiyot le'artzenu Ki echwe yeshot atovanu ברחת מכל עם ולשון,
מכל עם ולשון.
ערפתנו שמך הגדול,
סלע,
סלע
סלע
סלע באמת,
באמת,
להודות לך וליחדך, וליחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך
ברוך
בעמו ישראל,
באהבה.
באהבה.
And we take the tzitzit in the hand. Just want to welcome. We got more people coming on board. Bill Oppenheim came on board also. Crowds are growing. Carmen is here. Very good. Happy to see everybody this Shabbat morning. And we continue with the Shema. We take the tzitzit in the hand. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Together, V'yahavta et Adonai Lecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinamtam
I'm going to treat
levavecha
myself to just recording, not watching.
ושבתך בביתך ולכך בדרך ושכבך ובקומך וקשתם לאור על ידך
I'm not going to read too hard on myself. I'm just saying.
וכתבת
עמזות ביתך ובשעריך. And we continue. And we continue at the bottom of the page, the third paragraph of the Shema. We take tzitzit. We continue by Yomer Adonai Moshe Lemor Daber El Bnei Yisrael V'amata lehem v'osu tzitzit Al kanfei begehem lidorotam v'natna tzitzit Al kanaf betil terchelet Elachem letzitzit Uritem otos chatem ekol mitzvot Adonai V'atitem otam ve'lo taturu לבבכם ואחריניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריכם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם כראשים
אלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם
אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים
אני אדוני אלוהיכם אלוהיכם אמת.
True and faithful God. We continue with the song of liberation of the children of Israel as they passed through from slavery to freedom, and said, who is like unto the Lord among the mighty? And we continue, bottom of page, in front of you. Tilot le'eleh yom baruch hu mevorach Moshe uvnei Yisrael lachanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam kamocha v'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedov HaKodesh norah tilot osef shira chadasha shivchu geulim shimcha al sifat hayam shira chadasha shivchu geulim shimcha al sifat hayam Yachat kulam hodu, yachat kulam hodu v'imlichu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam goy Yisrael kuma v'yezrat Yisrael ubnei chinumecha Yehuda v'Yisrael go aleinu Adonai tzivot shema Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Adonai Yisrael. Now we're going to continue with the opening of the Amidah together, and then into the Kedusha. I'll just open this if I need it a little bit. There we go. Second. Squeeze this over just a little bit. There we go. Make sure this Okay, and we're going to continue with the Amidah. Here we've got it. Another second. And there we go. And let's join in together. Adonai sifatai tiftach upi yagid tehillotecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avoteinu Elokei Abraham Elokei Yitzchak v'Elokei Yaakov Elokei Sarah Elokei Rivka Elokei Rachel v'Elokei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh Hakol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot Levigon Fnehem Leman Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozer Moshiach Peked Moshiach Magen Baruch Adonai Magen Avraham Upoked Sarah Ata Gibor Elam Adonai Machai Metim Ata Rab Lo Shia Mashiv Haruach Morid Hagashem Mechakel Chaim Bechesed Mechayem Metim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Berofech Olim O Matir Asurim O Mekayem Emunato Lishenei Afa Michamocha Ba'Gevurot Umido Melach Melech Mimi Mechayer Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman Ata L'chayot Baruch Atah Adonai Mechayer HaMeitim. We continue with the Kedusha. Nekadeshim Chabalam Keshem Shmarti Shemata B'Shmei Marom Katuv Ayad Nevi'echa Karazal Zeviyomar Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzevaot Loretz Kevodo Oz B'Kol Rash Gadol Adi B'Chazak Mashmim Kol V'Nasim Atzerafim Otam Baruch Yomeru Baruch Kavod Adonai Mimekomo Ohai Mimkomcha Malkeinu Tofia V'Tim Loch Aleinu Kimachakim Anachnu Lach Matai Timloch B'Tzion V'Korvim El V'Tishkon Titkadal V'Titkadash B'toch Yerushalayim Shechaleh Dor V'Dor
Netzach Netzachim
V'Eineinu Tirena Tirena Malchutecha B'shirei uzecha Ayedei b'shiftzei k'chayim lo Adonai le'olam elayich Zion Hallelujah. And let's join in the Dovador. Ledor vador,
Ledor vador,
ledor vador,
ledor vador,
ledor vador, nagigad lecha. Ledor vador,
ledor vador,
ledor vador,
ledor vador,
ledor vador, nagigad lecha. Ole netzach netzachim, ole netzach netzachim. Yushavcha, Yushavcha, nagdi, sheshivchacha Eloheinu. Mi pinu lo yamush, lo yamush, le'olam va'ed. Go back. Ledor vador,
Ledor vador,
ledor vador,
ledor vador,
ledor vador,
nagigad lecha.
ledor vador,
Ledor vador,
ledor vador.
ledor vador,
ledor vador, nagigad lecha. Ki hamelech gadol, gadol v'kadosh, gadol v'kadosh, atav alai. Baruch Adonai Kadosh. We're going to scroll down
ישמח מוישה מתנצחק.
Yismach Moshe. Shamru b'nei Yisrael Shabbat. Yomim Ata Karata Zeichen Lamase Bereshit Elena Betenu Tzem Nechatenu Kashem Betachotenu Kenu Kasem Sabena Betenu Samchem Shuatecha Eli Benu V'Chabem Echin Lernu Yem Haba B'Tzem Shkei Mecha V'Inu Choysim Mecha Baruch Anu Mekashe in the middle of the page. Tachazenu inu shuv cholisim barachamim baruch Adonai machazish shchinato Tzion modim anach nasham etzem.
ואל תירא בישמעו וכל החיים ירושלים ושיר זהו ברוך השם שולם טוב
ועל כולם נתברכנו שם הכן תמילובד וכתוב לחיים טובים בניתך ברוך אתה נפשך להודות שים שלום טוב ורחמים וחסד ורחמים לנו כסר מחברכנו ונתנו לכולם כי בבנחת נריהן ורחם ועשה וזהו מה יש לה בחלית ובשלו יחבר לכם לבקסים ושלום אדם הימסר שלנו עושה שלום במואב הוא יעשה שלום עלינו כאשר במהרו amen. And we're going to go back to the Shamro, and I have the cantor.
Veshamru, page 54.
Let them lead us. On the bottom of the page.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael Azot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים מסע את השמיים הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
חצי כאן.
He announced the right part. We're going to go into the Chatzi Kaddish. We're going to go into the Kaddish D'Rabbanan shortly. And our crowds are growing. Daniel Abidan just came on board. Welcome. Shabbat Shalom. Daniel.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
How are you doing? Good to see you.
Fine. Kind of.
Okay, good. The numbers are good.
I caught a cold.
Okay. Just cover your mouth when you're online. Okay. And we continue with now leading in a little unit of study, short unit of study. I'm taking Hillel and I'm cutting apart his sayings because it's all in one sentence, but it's a run-on sentence, but each one is an entire sentence by itself. So I'm going to go down to right in the middle, and you can see I'm pointing with a pointer if you can see it. And it says, Al tadin et chavercha, ad shtageh lemekomo. Do not judge your friend till you have been in his footsteps, or her footsteps, in his place. And this, this is the famous Native American saying of, do not judge someone until you've walked a mile in his moccasins. It's the same concept. We know this as a modern disease. It is so easy to criticize someone online. You jump, you click like, you click unlike, you click friend, you click unfriend. You have these attacks on Twitter where people, and I see this, because one person has jumped on this person, all of a sudden a whole bandwagon of people jumping on it without reading what did the person actually say or write. Especially true now in academics. Person gives a statement, somebody doesn't like it, suddenly everybody's condemning that person as a fascist when what the person said was not at all what they're accusing him of. Mm-hmm. And so we must read carefully, what does someone write? What does someone say? What is the reasoning behind it? Right? And the same thing with actions, our friends' actions, our neighbors' actions, even people close to us. People may jump, they may do things that are out of whack. Well, why? We should understand why. We have to put ourselves in that position. Maybe we've never been in that position, so we don't know what it's like. That does not mean that we justify a crime. We want to judge carefully. We want to understand the circumstances, what brought someone to that point. And so that is what Hillel is warning us about. Okay, and we'll see in the next passage, few passages down, what happens when you get stuck in a cycle of revenge because of something said or done. Okay, so that is from Hillel for today. And now, go to the Kaddish D'Rabbanan. And with those who are saying Kaddish, please write with me. Yit Kadal, Yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yama Divra Chirutei, V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon V'yamechon, V'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala B'zman Kariv V'imru Amen, Yehei Shmei Rabbah Vorach, V'yalam Omer Maya, Yiborach V'yishtabach, V'yipa'ar V'yishamam V'yitnasei, V'yithadar V'yitalev V'yithalal Shemei D'kudsha Berichu, Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, V'yama V'imru Amen. Al Yisrael V'al Tamidei Kol Tamidei Tamidei Akol Man Doskim B'Oraita, Di V'Adra Hadim V'Di B'Chol Atar V'Atar, Ehei Lahon L'Chon Shlomo Rabba, China V'Chisur Rachmin, Chayin Arichin, Donei Viche, V'Korem V'Korem V'Hon D'Mishmaya V'Imru Amen, Ehei Shlomo Rabba Min Shemaya, Chayim Aleinu V'Koyse V'Yomein, Ose Shalom B'Imromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, V'Koyse V'Imru Amen.
Amen.
And word from your sponsor, Hollywood Temple Bethel. Support your local synagogue. And we're going to go into our Torah service. Have our ark. God willing, if numbers keep on going the way they're going, we may be allowed to come back in. And we'll talk about that later on. We have a little meeting. We're going to start discussing one of the things is how we can get back in person and still maybe be on touch for people outside. We try to work out the method for that. Okay, let us take out the Torah scrolls and all join in with me as we remove the Torah as if it were in our hands. Rabbi said, Kiviyachol, as if it were possible. Ein kamocha ve'elohim Adonai, ve'ein kemasecha, malchut, malchut, kol olamim, umimshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech, et amo b'shalom. Av harachamim, Iva v'tzoncha etzion, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Ki v'cha levavotachnu melech erom v'nisa, Adon olamim. Ben Saron vayomer Moshe, Oma Adonai v'yafutzu oivecha v'yanusu mipanecha, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Le'amo Yisrael Kedushato. Now we come to the prayer in front of the ark. Be'anarachetz v'lishmei kadisha kadisha yakira ana amatush bechan be'anarachetz v'lishmei kadisha kadisha yakira ana amatush bechan yehiravakada Tiftach libi be'oraita v'tashlim mishalim libi v'libo b'chol amach Yisrael v'tavu chayim v'lishlam. Amen. And we take out our figurative Torah scrolls, and I recite Shema, and you join in after me. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Together.
Shema Yisrael Adonai
Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Gadolul Adonai Itimera Mema Shemo Yachdav Lecha Adonai Gadol Vatiferet Vanetzach V'Hahod Ki Chohov Hashamayim U'Ba'aretz Ki Chohov Hashamayim Ve'ishtachavu l'Adon Rakav Kadosh Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu l'Hakadosh Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. And now we come to our Torah portion, and portion of Noach. In English, it's spelled Noah with 4 letters. In Hebrew, how many letters in Noah? 2
letters.
2 letters. So my father used to joke, and he said when somebody was really illiterate, he would write Noach with 7 mistakes. Right? Even
Noach is my middle name.
Yeah, that's right, David Noach.
Oh.
Noach. And Noach
Yeah.
means comfort, comfortable. Ata Noach, do you feel comfortable? That's Noach. Why? Because it's the end of previous chapter, Breshit, looks at humanity. Everything is bad downhill, and then God sees Noach and he says, Noach matzah chen. Chen, het nun, grace, Noach. Noach is comfort. You see the play, a play on words here with Noach, the name of Noach. And the word nachamu, consolation. God looks at his creation. He is very upset at his creation. And then Noach comes around and says, finally, somebody decent. And so he saves Noach. So what I want to look at is what happens afterwards. Noach comes out of the ark, because this is now we're in the third cycle. Comes out of the ark, you can see that in front of you. He takes out the animals. And his first action, over just a little bit, his first action, right? God tells him to come out of the ark, rebuild life. And his very first action, Noach creates an altar to God. Nobody tells him to do it, right? And by the way, Abel, right? Can Abel do that also? One of the things you learn is that it's very natural, then built into the human psyche, to give appreciation. Just as much as it's natural for the human being to be violent, it's also natural to give thanks, to want to approach God, right? Two tendencies, right? The end of the last week's portion, it says, Vayetze lev ha'adam ra min, that's actually in this portion, actually. Vayetze lev ha'adam ra min norav. He sees that the soul, the tendency of the human being is towards evil from youth, not from birth. Remember, that goes into original sin. It's not from birth. It's in youth. What? In youth. As one gains, not childhood, as one is becoming of age, one is struggling, we know this with children, impulse control. And as adults, of children, we do not expect impulse control. We train children, we condition them, and then we say, okay, he's a kid. At a certain point, we use the bar mitzvah age as a dividing line for us. It's an arbitrary line, but it seems to follow also with mental development. That at this point, child begins to conceptualize the differences, internalizes what's the value, difference between right and wrong. At the same time, the child is beginning to deal with all sorts of impulses that never struck a child before. So this is the human being. The human being here comes out and gives thanks. That's step number one. Then we have something else. So God has this famous covenant with Noach. He puts the bow in the sky, right? The bow in ancient imagery is the weapon of the gods when they're angry. God puts his bow up in the sky, says, no longer will I be angry at humanity or in the world that I created. I created it. I take responsibility for it. Okay? What I want you guys to do. And he comes up, what the rabbis read, are 7 commands to all humanity. Sheva mitzvot b'nei Noach. Now, 2 of them are very expressed here. One of them is dam. We'll just scroll on down. Scrolling down. You may eat of everything, and then up. I'm going to scroll on down. From the living creature, do not eat the blood of it. The blood is nafsho bedamo lo tochelu. Right? Don't eat the blood while it's still alive. What we call later on in Jewish teaching, ever minachai. That it is something that in all humanity, the idea of barbaric activities towards animals, something that's unacceptable. Now, we do know that, yes, there are tribes still where blood is drunk live from the cattle, Maasai in Africa. Their cruelty towards animals still goes on. But here's the beginning, a foundation of some kind of sense that the animal, the life of the animal is also something sacred, right? And what do we Jews do then? If we do have to slaughter an animal for food, the blood is poured to the ground, right? It's the symbol of life. That's number one. Number two, the next step, you human beings, of each other. I'm going to hold you accountable for you taking life, right? And I'm going to even ask animals to hold you accountable, and certainly human beings. So the rabbis read from this, obviously, murder. And then they read something else. The word edrasheno is a court inquiry. So we have the system of judges. So here we have three clear positions. And then the rabbis read into this and read into some of the commands given to Adam at the beginning. And they come out with 7 commands, universal commands. One is not that you must believe in God, but you do not blaspheme God in the sense of the godliness. You have to have a sensibility of something sacred. That's number one. The establishment of justice, prohibition against sexual licentiousness, right? The establishment of the bond between two partners, not to be trampled upon by others. The court system, every minute, I must be missing something. There's 7 altogether, and every time I think about it, I can't remember. But they go into this and they say that one who of the peoples of the earth who observes these 7 basic rules, and they're all moral rules, we may say moral spiritual rules, is ben olam haba, merits the world to come, right? You do not have to be a Jew. You do not have to accept Judaism. You have to accept the idea of a God in the sense you do not attack that God. And so we have the idea of Noachide, B'nai Noach. Now, there's some Christian groups that actually align themselves, identify themselves as B'nai Noach in that sense. And they use that term for themselves. And in general, in Jewish circles, it generally was accepted that devout Muslim, devout Christian would be considered under this category of B'nai Noach, right? As an example. And you'd find something similar among others, people of other religions. We're not out to force ourselves on everyone. So here's a very important point. We recognize a universal sense of right and wrong. That has to be universal to all humanity, some core basic elements. Then we each of us have our individualities as peoples. And we as Jews have Torah. Torah is specific to the Jewish people. We do not give up our Torah to be with everybody. We don't ask everybody to give up their personal beliefs. We even don't go and force ourselves on other religions. The rabbis, after some of the wars of the Maccabees, trying to impose Judaism on the neighboring peoples, basically came to the conclusion, we do not bother the pagan in his idol worship. Minhag avotehem b'yedechem en limchot. The custom of the ancestors, that is theirs. We do not object. Not my business. Not my business. It's nice if everybody become Jewish. No, but it'd be boring, I think, wouldn't it? Also, wouldn't have the panoply of humanity. Now, this goes very much in contrast to what we'll call the kind of moral relativism of contemporary thought, in which I may not judge anything of anyone from any other peoples because I am imposing my world perspective on them. Notice there are 2 ways. If I say you have to have tzitzis on your clothes and I'm going to judge somebody from Africa or somebody from China because they don't have tzitzis on their clothes, yes, I'm imposing myself on them. But if I say to someone in Africa or anywhere in South America, in Poland, in Europe, do not kill, I'm not imposing my judgment. This is universal, all right? Otherwise, I have no judgment. I have no right to judge the Germans when they killed Jews, right? Everybody has his law. No, there has to be something universal, certain key elements. So we want to distinguish that which is universal and that which is particular, which is very beautiful because now we're going from Noah right after this to Noah, his 3 sons, and generations of humanity right after this, the rebuilding of human life, and now an attempt to say, here are the families of humanity coming out of Noah and his sons. Now, it's not to be read as early racists read it. This is Shem, Ham, Yafet, the Semites, the Africans, and the white Europeans. It's not to be considered that way. It is to be considered a breakdown of the peoples of the Middle East, actually as they were, as the Bible is being put together under the Egyptians, going back before, around the time of Moses, actually, the breakup of the nations of the earth as they were at that time frame, and Egypt, Canaan is one entity, the Hamitic peoples, Hamitic language peoples. The Shem would be those in the, to some extent, the Middle East, and Yafet, the Greek islands. Right? So that's sort of much the breakdown of that world at that time. But what's the intent? What's the intent? The intent is to say all of these nations are legitimate variations out of Noah. So we have universal and we have particular, universal and particular. Right? We do not erase the particular. We don't want to erase the differentiations between different human groupings. We want to find what's shared. If we can't find what's shared, then death is the only outcome. But if we mush everybody into one melting pot of indifference, then we've also lost the core of humanity. Okay, I think that's Noach. That's Noach's lesson here for us. So now we're going to go into the reading, and Joe, I'm going to pull up here back to chapter 8, and we're going to go at line. What did I tell you? Line 15.
Yeah.
So then, Lulu, you're going to read. And Joe Alexander, you had something this week. I got a note. You were on with celebrities. What was it? Tell us.
It was the gala for the museum.
Uh-huh. And so you're on with it. Who else was on with you?
Well, I had Riva and I, and then my wife and I, and then my daughter, my son, the grandson.
So who are the celebs that joined you?
Who?
Yeah, I think was Jason Alexander one of them? I'm trying to remember.
Oh yes.
He's not related.
Jason,
that's a different.
There were several people. Several.
Okay. Wonderful.
The Winkler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The Winkler.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice.
There was quite a few of them, actually.
Okay. So, if you will, please lead us with the opening blessings of the Torah, and then Joe Ben Lula will do the reading for us for the opening. Go ahead.
Baruch Hu es Adonai HaMavorach.
Baruch HaNavarach Noed.
Baruch HaNavorach L'Olam Voed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher natan lanu Toras emes Chai on Basarenu. Baruch Ato Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. And go ahead.
וידבר אלוהים אל נוח לאמור, צא מן התיבה, אתה ואשתך ובניך ונשי בניך איתך, כל החיה אשר איתך, מכל בשר בעוף ובהמה, ובכל הרומס על הארץ היצא איתך, ושרצו בארץ ופרו ורבו על הארץ. ויצא נוח ובניו ואשתו ונשי בניו איתו, כל החיה, כל הרמס וכל העוף, כל רומס על הארץ למשפטיכם יצאו מן התיבה. ויבן נוח מזבח לאדוני, ויקח מכל הבהמה הטהורה ומכל העוף הטהור, ויעל עולות במזבח, וירח אדוני את ריח הניחוח, ויאמר אדוני אל ליבו, לא אוסיף לקלל עוד את האדמה בעבור האדם, כי יצר לב האדם רע מנעוריו, ולא אוסיף עוד להכות את כל חי כאשר עשיתי עוד כל ימי הארץ, זרע וקציר וקור וחום וקיץ וחורף ויום ולילה לא ישפטו,
The last line is a very interesting line. God, notice a very anthropomorphic turn. God smells the odor, and he says, in the English translation, he says to himself, in the Hebrew it says, El libo, he talks to his heart. And he looks at the human heart, right? Notice this play. So he's using a very human description. God's looking inside his heart, and then he's looking at Adam, looking at the human heart. He says, okay, I know this human being has a push towards evil, but I will not destroy the world because of it, right? So some commentators have said, God himself has a change of heart, right? God shows compassion, right? And again, it reflects this fight, as the rabbis say, inside God, between justice and mercy. Between justice and mercy. In the pagan world, the fight is between the gods in the story of Noah. Destroy humanity, save humanity. So the gods are fighting between each other. Now, here is God inside himself, herself. What do I do with human beings? Justice and mercy. Okay, and so, as long as there are days and nights and, right, harvest time and reaping time and cold and hot, none of those things will disappear. The whole world will continue, right? That's its guarantee for us. Much as we may not deserve it, that's his guarantee. All right, so with that, let's make our blessing for those who are ill. Open up the Mishaberach. And we're going to join in reciting our prayers and thoughts for those who are ill. If you have any names, we'll call them out, please. Mishaberach, Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Hu Yivarech v'Yapeh Cholim. May the Holy One who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, Leah, bless and heal Esther Elisheva, Pinchas Ber Terskovsky, Miriam Leodorf, Vyasa Ben Galina, Moisey Kelchik, Mindy Levins Pfeiffer, Jennifer Levins, Ronnie Duran, Harriet Levins, Moisey Ben Manya, Barbara Mormon, Esther Gearson, Joe Alexander, Robert Drato, Roger Rosen, Rachel Flalo, Jenny Drato, Michael Schinder, Susan Tuchman, Shirley Marco, Fira Feinberg, Judy Alkali, Richard Zeller, Leva Masha Ben Sarah, son of Louis Jason, Leva Batsara, Chana Batsara, Eliyahu Ben Chana, Herb Mormon, Irina Hosepian, Alex Trebek, Shoshana Batsara, Chana Sarah, Leah Bat Rachel, Chana Sarah Bat Kayla Alta, Alan Whalen, and Hai Arnesti. Please add names of those you want us to have.
David Mordechai Ben Yehuda Noach.
David Mordechai Ben Yehuda Noach.
Sima Harlev.
Sima Harlev.
Ran Unter Harlev.
Ran Tor Harlev.
Susan Feinberg.
Susan Feinberg.
Sharon Lipman.
Sharon Lipman.
Esther Rachel Batsiva.
Esther Rachel Batsiva.
Laban Moshe Ben Sarah.
Laban Moshe Ben Sarah.
And Shalom Ben Lazar.
Shalom Ben Lazar.
Emily Bat Sarah.
Emily Bat Sarah.
David Ben Hanalea.
David Ben Hanalea.
Ronald Rothman.
Ronald Rothman.
Julian Eisner.
Julian Eisner.
Tito and Gabi Gorodishev.
Tito and Gabi Gorodishev.
Sima Hana Bat Bracha.
Dina Hana Bat Bracha.
And Svia Bat Bracha.
Svia Bat Bracha.
Rachel Bat Ventura.
Rachel Bat Ventura.
Wendy Keller.
Wendy Keller. And all those who are ill, we pray for them that they find healing both in body and in mind, together with the whole house of Israel. Let's all say Amen. And we'll have Mishaberach here, Cantor Dan Gourani. Hold on, I have it to my
Mishaberach courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah Shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Okay, and now we come to our Haftarah reading for today. Let's see if I have the right one. I want to make sure. That's right, 54. It is actually Haftarah that's also used, I think it's, after Tisha B'Av, one of the Haftarahs repeated. The barren woman who has not given birth now has many, many children. It is the city of Zion, once again, with the children of Israel returned to her at the end of the Babylonian exile. And he uses the vision of Noach. I'm going to find that. Let's say, Ki minach zot li. For this is like the waters of Noah, that I swore I would never flood the earth, so I swear I will not be angry with you or rebuke you again. Of course, some of the rabbis later on have the question, wait a minute, we lost the temple a second time, what happened? And so they say, well, Isaiah is talking about the future temple, the perfect permanent one. That is the connection, the tie-in with our Haftarah. So let me start up. We'll read the first few lines of the Haftarah. Rani akara lo yalada v'tzchi rina v'tzali v'lo chala ki rabim b'nei shemema mibnei bula amar Adonai archivi mikom alech v'riot mishkenotayich yatu al tachsochu tarichi metraich v'yitedotayich chizeki ki aminu smol tifrotzi V'zarech goyim yirash varim neshemot yoshivu al tiri ki lo tevoshi al tikalmi ki lo tachpiri ki boshet alumayich tishkachi v'rapat alumutayich lo tiskeri od ki bo'alech osayich Adonai tzevaot shemo go'alech kadosh Yisrael elei kol haaretz yikarei kasher eisha azuva uvatzuvat ruach Kar'ach Adonai Beshet Nerim Kima Ais Amar Lahayich Berega Katon Zaptich Ubrachamim Gedolim Ekabetz Beshetzef Ketzef Histarti Panai Regamech Ubechesed Olam Richamtich V'Magolech Adonai. Now we continue with the prayers for the country, and I remember Jose Feliciano. All right, so here he is singing, I believe it's God Bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the celebration, please direct your attention now to the microphone behind home plate and welcome 9-time Grammy Award winner, Jose Feliciano. In honor of the servicemen and women stationed around the globe, he will now perform God Bless America.
God
with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Dios bendiga America, my home, sweet home.
All right, beautiful that we can share, right? You can sing playing in Spanish style. In fact, behind them it said baseball in Spanish with the American flag being held up, right? We have our specific heritages that we bring in from all over the world. We share our Americanness together. Very beautiful. And now we also share being Jewish and being partners with the people of Israel. This is a very momentous week. On two counts, the COVID rate started to go down again. So things can begin to open up again. And the United States managed to pull Sudan into an accord with Israel. Why Sudan is important? So in 1967, Israel was waiting for the Arabs to come and say, let's sit down and work out something with Israel. You're here to stay. And at Khartoum, the leaders of the Arab world came in and they said, no recognition, no negotiation, no peace. 3 no's. So significant now in Khartoum, here is recognition of Israel, here is peace with Israel. Yes to Israel. And I think it teaches us that the Palestinians are not the core problem of the Middle East. The Middle East is the core problem of the Middle East. When the Palestinian leadership wakes up and smells the coffee or smells the roses, whatever you want to have as a metaphor, then we'll get around to them and work things out with them too. So, prayer for the people of Israel.
Israel,
Okay, beautiful voice. Yeah, somebody commented when I said the COVID cases, they're talking about Israel, that the cases are declining for the first time. It was a very high, sharp peak, and now finally it's beginning to come down. The United States, I hope it's coming down. We pray it's coming down. The fatality rate, in other words, the number of dying per cases is leveling off, and I hope that's a good sign. Apparently, also it shows that children, small children, up to 10, which they knew already, but they're finally watching it in the school systems that are reopening. Hopefully, it's not spreading. So that may be a good sign for us. We just hope for good signs. That's what we pray for everyone.
Good sign.
We need it. Let's go ahead now. Return the Torah to the Ark. And we continue with our figurative Torah scroll as we open the figurative Ark. Say, Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Kiniskov Levado, Hodo, Eretz V'Shamayim, Vayarem, Ere Amot, Tehila, Alecho Chasida, Livnei Yisrael, Am Kerovo, Hallelujah, 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 David. Adonai Elim Adonai Kod Shemo Ishtachavu Adonai B'Kodesh Kol Adonai Mayim El Kavodirim Adonai Mayim Rabim Kol Adonai Ba'Koach Kol Adonai Be'adam Kol Adonai Aronim B'Shaber Adonai Etazeh Havonon Yakirim K'meged B'Siryon Kemo V'Noimim Kol Adonai Be'Adorim Kol Adonai Yakim Yakim B'Kadesh Kol Adonai Yechol Elayalot Yechasof Yorechol Kulo Omer Kavod Adonai Avoya Adonai Melech Olam Adonai Olam Adonai Yavarech Et Amo V'Shalom. As we continue, we figuratively put our Torah in our figurative ark. Eitz Chayim hi lamachazikim ba b'tom cheha meusha deracha adacheinam b'chol netivoteha shalom ashiveinu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu, Okay, we're going to wrap up the service, and Eloheinu Aleinu, the Kaddish and Olam, and then we're going to go into our discussion topic for the Shabbat. So I have Cantor David Propus here in Shaarei Tzedek. Shaarei Tzedek, very prominent synagogue in Detroit. He was in Finkelstein from Los Angeles was in Detroit. Cantor Propus was in Houston. Bet Yeshurun, which was my old congregation. And then they switched positions. And so Cantor Propus here in Shaarei Tzedek. This from his high holidays of a few years ago. As he chants Ein Keloheinu, we can join in with him.
Ein Keloheinu.
Ein Keloheinu.
that's his daughter. I believe so. That's his daughter. She does a lot. She's done a lot of music recordings with her father. But do you remember Cantor Baharav, who was with us for a few high holidays? So he had been in Houston for 1 or 2 years doing services at the old age home there. And Cantor Propis acted as his mentor. And so a lot of the melodies that you liked from Cantor Baharav, he'd learned from Cantor Propis. Oh, let us wrap up now with Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabach l'adon. There we go. Let me stop this one second. I want to just move it up here. There we go. Sorry. Let's go back to Aleinu together. Aleinu l'shabach l'adon. Artekiru l'yotzei reshit shelo sanakiyei haratzot shelo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo samchem v'gor aleinu k'chol ha'olam v'anachnu korem u'mishtachavim u'modim lech malchei amlochim hakadosh baruch hu teshamayim v'yoyse doret How can Emar v'haya Adonai lemelech ha'koharetz Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Oshemo echad. Hey, I got a note from someone they didn't hear. Are you all hearing me clearly when I come on board? I've got a earbud here with a microphone because this particular laptop I'm working on has a tinny ear. So
Your volume dropped when you started Aleinu.
Okay.
It's dropped now.
It's dropped now. Interesting. So I don't know what plays with it. Speed here is okay. As I say, it's if I take off the microphone. Sounds without the plug, without the microphone.
Much better.
Lot better.
Oh, sound better.
Oh, without it? Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes,
okay.
Sounds much better.
Okay. I'm glad I tried that then. I'm glad I got that notification. Because when I've tested it, it sounded very tinny to me. Okay, that's good. Now that we're all finished, you can hear me. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to wrap up the service. We're going to come to the.
We could still hear you before, but this is better.
Wasn't as good. Okay, very good. I'm glad I found out. All right. So this week, Yahrzeit, Nathan Hoffenberg, the father of Howard Hoffenberg, and Chaim Avisroy, who was his father-in-law, and Alex Satmari, our longtime friend here, and Susan, you're on here with us to mark his Yahrzeit, and also Bernice Kaplan, their Yahrzeits are commemorated this week. And we recall those who passed away in the last year: Harry Kyle and Davis Wenkert. Andrew, you're back in. Good, because I just am calling your father's name Jack Petsko on the Kaddish list. So those who are reciting the one is Kaddish, please recite with me. And I'm going to. One second, let me just get this correctly here, lined up. Get this? Yeah, why is it doing this to me? Okay, and hold on. All right, together we recite the Kaddish. Yitkadal, Kadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Bi'amadi b'rafirotei, bi'amlich malchutei, b'chaychon bi'amechon, b'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala b'zman karibim ra'amein, Yehi shmei Rabbo Morach, le'olam lo me'amaya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yifa'al, v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithada, v'yit'aleh, v'yithalal, shemei d'kudsha, b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechmata, d'ram bi'amabim ra'amein, Yehi Shlomo Rabba min Shemar, v'chaim oleinu v'knesset v'romein, Oseh Shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'oiseh bimru, amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens above, where stars and planets manage to get around without crashing most of the time, where we have the same on earth among us and all Israel and all people. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And a reminder, this service brought to you by your local favorite synagogue, Hollywood Temple Bethel. Please give us your effectual support. Take donations to keep us going by mail or on PayPal, temple@htbel.org, and allows you to say who you are honoring or in memory of anyone in particular. And with this, let's go to Adon Olam. And I have, who do I have next? What happened to my Adon Olam? I had another Adon Olam. Wait a second.
Adon Olam.
Wait a second. I have an Adon Olam for you. What happened to it? I wanted an Adon Olam. I know who I wanted for my Adon Olam. Where did he go? Hold on. I wanted him. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I wanted this fellow, the same guy. Remember, I opened, those of you who started with us, Shema Cantor, Abramson of the Israel Defense Forces, magnificent voice. Let's join in with him.
Adon Olam, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא, לחפשו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. אדון עולם השם עלה, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחפשו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובד והוא יפעלה אדון עולם השם עלה בטרם כל יציר נברא ונשא וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא והוא אחד בין שני והמשילו להכפירה ולראשית ולתכלית לא העוד המיסה אדון עולם אשר מעלה בטרם כל יציר נברא לתעשה וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא והוא אלי וחי גואלי בצור חבלי וצרה והוא ניסים ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום אקרא אדון עולם אשר מעלה בטרם כל יציר נברא לתעשה וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא בידו הפקיד רוחי ותשאר ועיירה ועם רוחי וגבייתי עד יושב לי ולא יראה Shema
Okay.
Have you
Beautiful.
seen
Sounds like, huh?
Have you seen the video of them doing this a cappella at the kitchen table?
No. Oh, for Adon Olam? I've
Yeah.
seen them do Havdalah from Zoom rooms. I've seen that one. But, but that wasn't a cappella, actually. It was orchestra. So he has it as an a cappella. I have to take a look at it.
Yeah, and you see everybody singing each part, and they're just hitting the table.
I don't know how they get that to work. The technology and getting everybody on key and starting on, when you follow along with Zoom, you realize there's a delay. So they have to have some way of all being on time with each other.
No, this is just a video.
Yeah. They're doing it. Very good.
Yeah.
But they do these Zoom from separate rooms also.
Right,
Not that many. I don't know the technology they do.
I don't know.
Nice to get everybody to start and stop it
People
together.
doesn't know either. They can't figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. So, it's interesting. He's out of the Israeli Defense Force. The Israeli military was the, what do we call it? The term fourth lab that produces so many new things. So musically, all the great Israeli musicians got their start in the Israeli army, where they went to one of these music troops that would go and entertain the troops. And as they did that, they learned their profession. They became then the leading singers in Israel. So good. Abramson. Yeah, is very good. So I'm going to close down our music section. I'm going to go to our learning section. Okay, close this down. I don't need this thing out of the way. This out of the way. And pull up my notes. Okay, so let's go briefly for everybody. Move myself out of the way here, trying to get these screen controls out of the way. Everything juggling back and forth. There we go. That's here where I want it. And this is here where I want it. Okay, so this week and next week, I thought I would go back to learning text. And then after that, I have first week of November, Judith Cohen, who is an expert on Sephardic Jewish music. When we had the discussion on Sephardic Jews, she came on for a second and explained some of the songs to us that we had. So she's going to show us some examples, Spanish and North African Jewish music examples and what is the influences. She's a very well-known musicologist in her field. And then the following week, Arthur Ben-Benissi was with us on the Jews of Rhodes. We'll be back to talk about the crypto Jews. That's not from Superman's kryptonite, but from the word crypto, hidden. Jews, especially that we found, for example, in New Mexico and in Mexico proper, and scattered in places in South America, where I had Jewish traditions and heritages and had been observing some kind of Jewish tradition, either as Jews or some kind of blend with Christianity, and beginning to come out of the woodworks, even till today, sort of slow in happening. We talk about hidden Jews. Last week's meeting with the Polish Jewish community. Also, if you thought about it, I asked them, why are you getting converts in Poland? And it says, well, we're getting a lot of people who's had Jewish family from whom it was hidden or never really encouraged. And then they're coming back out of the woodwork saying, I want to recapture my Jewish identity. And I think about that later on some point. I'll tell you a little bit more about the story of my mother, those of you who know her. My mother lived in hiding in the open as a Polish Catholic during the Holocaust, for example, right? So this hits home, this idea of hidden Jews. So I had some pictures of her in Warsaw, right in the middle of World War II, and she's posing for somebody's friends, taking picture of her, like fashion photography pictures. And I sent some of those pictures to the people who were at the meeting with us, and the pictures are fuzzy and very hard to make out the background. And they said, yes, we can identify this place, we can identify this place. All right. And so there's my mother taking friendly, smiling, posing photographs while she knows the Gestapo is out to get her. All right. Oh, hidden Jews. That's a topic then that really strikes home. Let us now go to Jewish values. Next week, also sometime during the week, Carmen, you can talk about it later on. We want to have a discussion about what's happening. And so tell everybody later on what will be involved. I want to get to our topic. And then some of it I'll cover today, whatever I don't cover next week. And then it's also Halloween. So I said, well, let's have some fun. And I'll talk about Jewish magic and superstition also. A little bit entertaining in the process. We asked the question, I title this, do we Jews have a catechism, right? If you are, a good Christian has a catechism, there's a structure, there's an organization of essential principles of faith. And if you ever read them, the catechism, so a lot of it will fit with what we know as common Jewish thought. And then there's a deviation to the key elements that are distinct to Christianity. Very interesting. If you go to Islam, you have 5 pillars of Islam. The one God, Allah, Moses, Muhammad as his prophet, and then certain obligations, charity, prayer, the pilgrimage. And in both cases, they're essential because these are world religions, and you have to have, in the case of Christianity, since it's more an idea-based rather than an action-based, you need to have a common set of ideas. And so you have to define these. In Islam, you have a crossover in some sense, where you do have an idea-based and you have a behavior-based, but again, you need to set up something in common where it's clear-cut because you have to reach abroad. You want to reach the whole world. For Jews, it was not so essential. We didn't need a systematic theology, right? We had our values. We didn't need to systematize it in the same sense that the other 2 major religions did. So we come to the question, so what do we Jews believe in? It's sort of like an octopus. An octopus has no skeleton, and you can get in and out anywhere you want. Where is that octopus? Not here, not there, right? Sometimes you may say, what are Jews? We're not this, we're not that, right? So how do we define ourselves? How do we get other Jews to be able to decide what is a core element in Judaism? So one of my teachers pointed out, despite Maimonides and despite Mendelssohn and all the great Jewish philosophers, that from classic core Jewish perspective, we don't talk about principle A, principle B, and like in math, or axiom and then corollary, axiom, corollary. We don't talk in those terms. We do talk in terms of value concepts, values that can be formulated in a noun form, and then we build around them. We don't try to narrow them down to something. We try to expand them by seeing in what way is they applicable. So how do we get these core concepts out now? As long as the temple is around, everybody has to come to the temple in Jerusalem. Everybody sees the priest. The priest says, you do this, you believe Torah, fine and good. Now, temple is gone. We're Jews. Jews are sitting in Babylonia in big numbers. Jews are sitting in Alexandria, Egypt. They're also sitting out in Gibraltar, the end of the world, going towards the west. And they're also sitting as far into as Afghanistan, deep inside Afghanistan. They're old Jewish communities, and into the beginning of India. That's that spread of the Jewish world. So how do we reach out? We need to have something in common. And how am I going to get people to know what's in common? Well, you make people pray, because that's very common. The sacrifice is gone. And even while the sacrifices were in place, Jews in Egypt or Jews in Babylonia couldn't go. So while the sacrifice would take place, they would start getting together. And once the temple was gone, well, we need to have something defined. So you're going to say, okay, morning, noon, and evening, I'm going to have the Jews say something that's going to encapsulate what is it that we really believe? What is it that we really value? That's what we now call the Amidah, the standing prayer, also known as the Shemona Esrei for 18. And we're going to come into a problem because they're 19. We're going to look at this problem for us in a second. We're going to look at how this is structured, how this prayer is structured, how we got to it. All right, so hold on, let me move up a little bit. I want to make sure I've got the page that I want. All right, here we go. This is where I want it to be. So we've got these 18 prayers. Somewhere after the destruction of the temple, we need to formulate so that a Jew says this morning, noon, and evening. So 3 times is going to say these statements, and we know what you pray for is what you believe in. All right, when you stand up and ask for something, this is what I want you to believe, or it's what I want you to value. That's a better way than saying this is what I want you to believe. And so don't forget, it's also you say it and then the cantor repeats it. So you're doing it twice in the morning, twice in the afternoon, once in the evening. So you're saying it 5 times a day, really. Well, you should learn it by then. So let's see. Go to the Talmud in Masechet Brachot, which is the chapter of the Talmud talks about the prayer book, our prayers, our blessings. And they ask about this prayer, the 18. Hani Tamne Srei. These are really 18 blessings. It's an Aramaic phrase. Tish Srei Havim. They're really 19. Wait a minute. Oh. I got 19 prayers. I have 18. I really have 19. So where's number 19? All right. Now I'm talking about, now we're going to start defining who's a Jew. How am I going to keep defining who's a Jew? Then we'll go to the rest of it. But this number 19 is a very problematic one. And it says, Amar Rabbi Levi, Birkat Haminim, the blessing of the heretics. Now, min means a kind. Min means male and female in modern Hebrew, but in rabbinic Hebrew, min, meaning a kind, was used as a code word for people who are kind of off base from the rest of us. So who would be off base from the rest of us? The English translation you see here says curses informers. Wait a minute. The translator is confusing our text. What do I mean by that? I'm going to skip. Watch this. Watch where I'm going to. So here's the Amidah. I'm going to skip down to number. Boom, 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 boom. This problematic one. And in the text that we have, I'm going to open up this a little bit wider. Tell you what's happening here. The Hebrew says, "L'malshinim al tehei tikva," and to the informers, there shall be no hope. And then our enemies and everybody else. God destroys the enemy. Our informers. Right? That makes sense. Informers. What do I mean by informers in the rabbinic period? Roman government, afraid of Jews leading an uprising again, would post secret police in the synagogue. This is not new. It continued into the Middle Ages. It continued in Russia into the Soviet Union till our day. Informers. If any of you saw something about the rioting in Manhattan, in Borough Park, attacks on a journalist, a Jewish Orthodox journalist, because some of the kooks there thought he was a Moser, an informer, betraying. That was very common among minorities all around the world. Minorities are very concerned. So somebody who betrays the minority to the government, right? Okay, but that's not the original. That's not the original. The original is found in the Sephardic prayer book, but not in ours. So the translator is translating as if it was the translation in the Ashkenazic prayer book, which is not the original. Now, why would the Ashkenazic prayer book have replaced the original? Somebody have a guess? But I'm supposed to guess why and the translation here is wrong. It's commentary. I won't say it's commentary is wrong. Nobody has a wrong commentary. Let me guess why our Ashkenazic prayer book would have replaced min, which means a heretic, with informers. Somebody have a guess. No guess. Nobody's willing to venture a guess. No brave souls out there, huh? Okay. So, min, number one category of min as the temple has fallen, the number one category of those who are splitting the Jewish community are the early Christians. Together with them, there are other groups, what we call Gnostic. Gnostic meaning those who possess secret knowledge, who talked about a good God and a bad God, God of light and God of darkness. And the Jews were stuck with the God of darkness. They had the God of light. So there's also another group. So all of these heretical groups. So if I'm cursing somebody, he's in the synagogue because they're one of us, but they don't believe exactly what we believe, I want them out. Right here I'm talking about how do I define what's a Jew, what's not a Jew? What do I accept, what's not accept? So I make them stand up and everybody's saying out loud, to the heretics there can be no hope. They got to keep their mouth shut. Once they keep their mouth shut, I know who is the one. So it's not Malshinim. So why would we remove it from the Siddur? Because now, as time goes on, who is the dominant power? The Christians that we were trying to shut out are now the dominant power after Emperor Constantine. And they're watching what we say. And they make us edit our prayer books to remove things that they thought were against them. And so in the Ashkenazic prayer book, you have Alam Hashinim. Okay, we don't have police. We don't have secret police informing on you. Not like under the early Roman government. But we don't want you cursing us. Sephardic communities which were sitting in Muslim countries, they didn't have that sensitivity. They were part of that heretical group. So Muslims did not feel that was an intimidation. They didn't bother Jews on that prayer. Right? So this is the prayer. So how do we get to it? Notice, see, the function of the prayer book is how do I decide who's in and who's out in the community. Right? So this is our, as I say, one of the elements of our catechism. So we keep on going. And you can see some of the origin of it. It's described in the Gemara that in Yavne, following Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, then comes Rabbi Gamliel, the next generation, and he organizes the prayer book. Yochanan ben Zakkai defines what's the final text of the Bible for us. So all the Jewish communities around the world have core text, which is our modern Masoretic text eventually. It does not include the Apocrypha, which the Catholic Church keeps, but the Protestant Church comes back to our text. And then the next is this common book of prayer. All right, by the way, common book of prayer, very important in the Catholic Church and in the English Protestant churches, right? This common text, because here's where we're going to have everybody sharing, right? Out of this idea. So Rabbi Gamaliel establishes someone to make an official text. And so it is Shimon HaPekuli, that's the name of the guy who sets it up for him, arranges the 18 back. In other words, he gives us our formal structure. Then he's worried, is there anyone who knows how to institute the blessing of the heretics, Birkat HaMinim? And now notice the commentary says directed against the Sadducees. Again, Sadducees or the Sadducees, the priestly party, who have now lost. That's the commentary on it. But again, this commentary, and I'm going to question the translation, it is usually interpreted as blessing against the Sadducees. That is part of it. But we know now it's not just the Sadducees. The Sadducees by now have been defeated because there's no temple. So we don't need to kick them out. They're gone. It's the early Christians and Gnostics. So Shmuel HaKatan stood up and instituted it, and then there's a little joke. The Gemara itself plays a joke on it. It says, L'shana acheret shachacha. Next year, he forgot the blessing himself. Okay, then it goes on. There's a little digression about why that happened. Let's go ahead now. Going back to our catechism, how we're structured. The Amidah, how is it built? You first praise God, then you ask for what you want. So the Amidah starts out with blessings to God, and he gives an example from Moses, and then Moses goes to ask his question. So then they follow up and they say, in the first part of the Amidah, we resemble a servant who is addressing praise to his master. In the middle one, a servant who's requesting largesse from the master. And in the end, servant who's got his largesse from the master and takes his leave, right? That's the opening. And so you can see, I'm just going to show this in front of you, structure, the opening of the Amidah, and that part everybody knows. We say the Avot, ancestors, God of ancestry, Gevurot, the power of God in life and death, and then the sanctification of God. So that's the opening. We're opening to God, giving our praise of God. The closing, and that's on every version of the Amidah. Every day, morning, noon, and evening. The ending also is a thank you. We call for return of the service in the temple so we can thank you the right way. We say, Modim anachnu lach, we thank you, and then we ask for peace, right? On our ending, and then there's a personal petition. So that's how that beginning and ending is the same in everyone. It's the middle where we now get into what are we also asking for? Because when I know what I'm asking for, I know what I value. If I know what I value, I know what are my core issues. So we have what are called the personal petitions. It is on weekday. On Shabbat, we're not allowed to worry. On festivals, we don't worry. So on festivals and the Shabbat, the theme is that of the Shabbat or the festival. It's during the weekday. We've got real concerns. And we're going to look at those real concerns. You can see I have arranged them here. Understanding, Teshuvah, Slicha, Gula, we'll go into that. Take a look. Okay. So much for my talking here. And I'm going to open up my prayer book. And afterwards, okay. Let's go into the prayer book. I will start looking at them one by one. And I said, whatever we don't cover today, we'll cover next time. So I'm going to make this a little bit larger for you. This is from the Lev Shalem, which is the newest of the editions of the Conservative Movement Prayer Book. And as you can see, in typical conservative style, it's not designed as an easy read, and it's not designed as a congregational sing-along prayer book. It is designed as an exercise in academics. That is our kind of thinking, we may say. We tend to be very academic in a style. So let's go ahead now. I'm going to pull this up. You can see how we have nice selections on the left side in this version, meditative selections, there's a whole bunch of them, all right? And on the right side are the research, summaries about what's the origin, what's the source of each of these texts and so on, right? We just spend our time learning, so that the idea of worship is as much learning as it is going in and singing Amidah, right? Very important point. The worship, Jewish worship, is an intellectual pursuit as much as an emotional pursuit. By the way, somebody asked about doing Israeli dance songs, so that's a very nice idea. There are a lot of Israeli dances that are set to common liturgy, so I'm going to look for some of them. We can put them up as well. And as I say, but that's going away from the learning end to the Amidah end. Can't say we can't be without the Amidah end. We need the mind. So the very first one, which you all know, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I want to really get to the middle, is the idea of the God of history. Going back, right? Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Now we add, update the mothers, right? Sarah, migration, Leah. You can see, so we have the traditional text and we have the modern or the contemporary text. God of our ancestors, right? So we're tying ourselves in history. One of the key elements, okay, what I'm going to say as a Jew, we are rooted in history. It's history before the Exodus. We are rooted in history. That's number one. What I'm going to tell you then about God is I'm looking at God not as some vague creator of something in the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. It doesn't interest me. I want to know what's the connection to me. And the connection is a historic connection. First step. So that's my first value. Then, okay, right? We go to the, right, and it ends up with Magen Abraham, or right, the guardian of Abraham, or the guardian of Abraham and Sarah. Now to what's called Givurot, power. God as the power in the universe. Manifested in what? the first way we understand God's power is what Mechayim Meitim, right? Life to the dead. Right? Now the rabbis are telling us we have a faith that our lives have a purpose at the end. We don't define it. We come with all sorts of versions of what is life after death, but we want to say there's something that is beyond just the physical flesh and blood, right? So here's a second element. And how do we express it? How do we feel it the most? What's the change in the prayer book that we had just 2 weeks ago? Look in the middle of the line. Joe, what did we add?
Moed Atol.
My Reda Geshem, right? Why does that tie in with life after death? In winter, everything is dead. Comes the rain, things come back to life. Now, this is in Israel, so the seasons, like in California, work a little bit differently. In the summer, everything dies, right? In the summer, everything dies. And with the rains, things come back to life. Things come back to life now because of the rains. So we see the rains, and then by the beginning of the first, as the days get longer and longer, we see new life, right? What better example? So now, Mechalkei Chaim b'Chesed, right? God is the source of life, Mechalkei Chaim, giving life. And if there's life, then we have life in a physical life, we have life in a spiritual sense, right? Rofei Cholim then. So Mechnofim, now I want to feel that feeling, right? God is support of those who've fallen, source of healing, source of liberation, Matir Asurim. How do I feel that life? God is a source of life, right? In these actions, right? So here's a second element, key element. Next one, the Kedusha, right? Kadosh, right? God as sacred. And of the prayers, it's really a very short one by itself. When you recite it, let me try to get back to the top of the page. When you recite it by yourself, it's all of one line, which is you say, Ata Kadosh in the bottom, you are holy, your name is holy, and therefore we praise you, God who is holy. Ha'el HaKadosh. On high holidays we say Hamel HaKadosh. When we do the repetition, we do what we call the Kedusha, which is now expanding upon it with Kadosh. Kadosh out loud. And the right? Okay, so we have, this is the 3 introductions. Every day, 5 times a day. 3 times silently, twice with the Mount Tefillah. Okay, now, the first set. Tachlis. What do I want as a Jew? Do I want money? Do I want love? Do I want success? What do I ask for?
Help.
First thing I ask for. Ata chonen l'adam da'at. You give the human being knowledge. Melamed lanosh bina. First thing I need is understanding. I need a mind. I need wisdom. I need understanding. Baruch atah chonen hadat. The human intellect gets its power from the divine intellect. This is very, very Jewish. If I'm a Christian, the first thing I want is divine grace. And I get it from absolute faith. If I'm a Muslim, I get it from submission to the power of Allah. As a Jew, I want that. I want to understand. Right? Look at that. I want understanding. So that's step 1. This is how I know what's valuable, by what I put in my prayer book. Second thing, now I get to the faith element. Okay, now I have a brain, I have a mind. Now I can take action. Now I can be held responsible. Therefore, God, bring us back to your teaching. All right, now I've got a mind, I can take a teaching. If I don't have a mind, I don't have a teaching. I'm just a robot. Now you can bring us close to your work. Bring us, right? This is now the faith element, right? So I've put what for Christianity's grace is the first place, I've put in the second place. And very important, we have this feeling, God coming out, reaching out to us. I put it in second place. I want the interaction. I'm a cognizant entity. What's Descartes? Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Now, therefore, I can come to a position of faith, right? Bring us back now. God wants us to turn to him, right? He's not blocking the way. He loves us to come back. Therefore, well, I can make my amends with God, right? So step number one, I need the intellect to understand. I want to be drawn, please, to your teachings, to your wisdom. Now, if I have that, now I can find forgiveness for my shortcomings. Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu, right? We all have failures. Therefore, God is chanun marbeh. God is capable of forgiving, right? Yes, we have sinned, and again, in common with Islam and Christianity, it's the idea of sin, the idea of failure. But is that we take our steps and we move towards God, and God will come towards us. Again, right? This is what we're trying to teach our people. Now we can go to Tachlis. Okay. I have my mind, I have my step to approach God, and I have a sense of forgiveness. Now, next step. Now I'm going to get to Tachlis, God. This is what I need. Finally, I know what I need. I'm suffering, right? As a people, we are suffering. Vivarivenu. There are people out to get us, right? This is the Jewish reality for much of history. Please save us. I believe you're going to save us. Goel Yisrael, Redeemer of Israel. Finally, I'm getting to Tachlis, right? I'm saying what I need. I need emotionally, I need intellectually, I need emotionally, I need spiritually, I need physically. Now, we are not looking at the next life, we're looking at this life, physically. Physically, first and foremost, as a people, we need to be saved. That's the first step. Continue with Tachlis, right? We are very Tachlis, consequence-oriented people. Want to know what's critical? Everybody knows this is the virus time. We all know this, that we have our sufferings because of the nations of the world. We have sufferings because we have disease. We have injuries, we have accidents. All right, bring us healing, right? And by the way, many of you are familiar with this, that when it has the daily Amidah, there's a little line that's common to insert. You can add your own personal petition in here. Very common to do that. But here's the point. We recognize the importance of our lives and of our bodies, and if we are not healthy, there's nothing we can do to help God either. So, value statements, right? Rofeh Choleh Amo Yisrael, right? The source of healing for the people of Israel. Again, Tachlis. What good is being healthy if I can't feed myself and my family? All right? Remember in the beginning, the second of the Amidah is called Gvurot and starts with rain and source of life. Now let's get down to it, God. Barech Aleinu et hashana hazot. This is called Birchat Hashanim, the blessing of the years. Mivarech Hashanim, who blesses the years with what? What's the most important thing? This is California. We understand what it is, just like in Israel. Rain. Rain means prosperity. Right? I think what was the job of the Emperor of China? He had one particular job, maybe it was the Emperor of Japan. One of the only one job was to pray for rain. Everything else would take care of itself. I believe that was the prayer. All right? The blessing for rain. And with rain, kol minei tuata litova, the abundance of the produce for good. And then we add, whether it's the rainy season or dry season, bracha utala matar. Notice that while we switched the prayer for rain 2 weeks ago, we don't actually add it in here till December. And there's a little story because the pilgrims come to Israel at the time of the temple, and then they head back to Babylonia or to the countries of great distances. And they tell the people in Israel, please don't pray for rain too much yet, because we're going to get flooded. We're walking through the deserts, and if it rains, we'll get wiped out. So we wait till December till they get back home. And notice it's the only Jewish event that refers to a specific date on a secular calendar year. Do you notice that? December 4th or December 5th? and it's because it is 60 days from the, it counts 60 days from autumn, I think from the onset of fall. I think that's how it's dated. So it's exact 60 days based on the solar and not the lunar calendar, right? So that blessing of rain. All right, so here I come to these three core elements, right? Please take off of me the people that are pressing from me. 1. 2, take off illness from me so I can stay alive. 3, give us abundance so we can enjoy our lives and carry out what you need. All right, so those are those core first elements. Then the next week we'll go into the ending elements, which are the national elements of the people of Israel and the futuristic elements for the people of Israel. And we'll have a little time for what are examples of personal prayer as well. And then a little bit of, there's no black magic in Jewish sources, but fun magic. All right. So I'm going to close this down. Stop share. All right. We got Holiday Bethel on the screen. Okay. So to everyone here, all of you who are on, I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Carmen, are you still there? If you want to lead a little about what's happening this week, for the week. Okay. Shall I lead? I'm going to give you the host.
No, because I'm on my phone.
Are you on your phone? So let me give you the hosting, and you can take it from there. And then we're going to end the live stream also at this point. I'm going to stop the live stream.
I was actually watching on YouTube.
How did it look?
Well, it's not so much a look as the audio. Whenever you rock away from your computer, it's very, very hard to hear you on YouTube. Every time you walk away. So when you put the earbuds in, it sound you were consistent in your sound. But as long as you stay close to your computer or use your earbuds, it works.
Okay, because I'm on the laptop, the microphone's not as sensitive here.
Yeah.
Okay. So Yoni, did I make you the chief honcho? Are you honest? Yeah. Are you honest?
I just want to quickly announce, because I have to go to Barbara's in a minute. The meeting that is the general meeting for October, is it 29? I think next Thursday.
Right.
Yeah. Anyone who would like to run for a position on the board, I need to create the polls and everything to set them up so that they're ready for the meeting. You have until Tuesday to let me know that you are. I have a few people already, but you have until Tuesday to let me know that you are interested in, and so that we can add you to the ballot. Think of it as your early practice for following Tuesday. And I would please attend the meeting. The members who have received all your email. If you haven't received your email or your postage mail, please phone me I can't post it by Tuesday, of course, but phone me by Tuesday and I will make sure that the email goes out to you. That's it. That's all I have to.
Very good.
Email
Yoni,
yeah, that's right.
Let me just ask you at this point, on your end, you see the live streaming, see if you can turn it off. Like we can end it at this point.